Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all out there. Greetings once again. This is I'm PR Smith. Hello again. I've got Reggie from Fort Worth, Texas, and I've got Wayne Denner from beautiful Warren Point, County Down, Northern Ireland. Good afternoon and good morning to you guys and to everybody else. Welcome to the Sustac Plans Chat Club, where we chat about 30 minutes. We chat about AI innovations and ethics in marketing and business overall. We've got a very nice agenda, which I'll take you through in just a minute. But first, we're going to play you, as we always do, a little bit of music. We're going to choose The Children of Ukraine by Tim Hain, who's the guy that created Blegay. That's blues and reggae. Beautiful song, and the video is stunning. So we give this a little listen.
Half of me is in Kiev. Half of me on a train with my daughter, fleeing from the tanks and bombs. Daddy stays to fight the oppressor. This train rumbles into one more station where the desperate are trying to climb on board this train.
Such a beautiful song. We'll play the whole thing at the end, but that is Tim Hain, whom I know personally, and he's given me permission to play all the various bits of music. Creator of Blegay, blues and reggae concept coming together. And it's quite terrific. He played with Jeff Beck, or jammed with Jeff Beck, the late Jeff Beck, the late great Jeff Beck, for those music lovers amongst you. So that was Tim Hain and The Children of Ukraine, which is still a living tragedy that's occurring right now as we speak. Okay, so what have we got today? We've got yet another busy schedule. It never ceases to amaze me the amount of stuff we have to cut out. But we're going to talk about DeepSeek again. We've got a little update. We're going to ask Reggie for an update of what's happening there. Of course, Wayne, jump in at any point in time. We're going to talk about Meta's massive lies destroying social media, part 2. We opened that up last week, and we're going to continue a bit more on that. Talk about social media being likened to cancer for children this week, which is really quite powerful political statement. Something about sextortion, suicide dad sues Meta. And roadblocks, safety guards, and verification. Wayne is going to give us a little update on that. And then Reggie, how can AI be used to upgrade your peso? That's kind of owned, earned, paid, and more shared media. So we'll be looking at that. Promise to give you an update on free AI courses. So we'll give you a little update on that. And if we have time, well, we'll see how we get on. So that's our session for today. So let's kick off with the very first one, DeepSeek update. Reggie.
So one of our regular co-hosts, Dr. Sarah Aldib, posted on LinkedIn. She reminded us that in India in 2023, Sam Altman was there, and he was asked if a small, smart team with $10 million could build something big in AI. And his reply was, "It's totally hopeless to compete with us on training foundation models." Well, as she points out, it turns out he was wrong, and by quite a bit, because a Chinese AI startup with $6 million built DeepSeek AI, which is 95% cheaper than its US based competitors, and studies into it have shown that it's pretty much on the same level of performance. It's open source instead of closed source, which instead of being privately controlled like OpenAI is, ChatGPT is, open source allows for faster innovation because more people can see the code, you can see into it, and kind of like Wikipedia, you understand. So it's transparency as well. There are some concerns about DeepSeek. One note of caution is that it acquires rights to everything it generates. So everything that you enter into it claims to acquire rights to. This is in their terms and conditions. Just yesterday, a development in the United States, two senators in the House of Representatives put forward a bipartisan bill. They're proposing a ban on DeepSeek on all federal devices, similar to what we saw with TikTok a couple of years ago, when they said that anyone working for the federal government is not allowed to have it on their government-owned devices because of the concern of the Chinese Communist Party having access. A study by, I think it was, I don't remember the name of the company, Faroot, I think. The Associated Press previously reported that DeepSeek has computer code that could send some user login information to a Chinese state-owned telecommunications company, so that's been barred from operating in the United States. So there's concern about security there, and they just want to make sure government secrets, given the ongoing cyber potential for cyber disruption and security issues. So
Mm.
those are some updates on DeepSeek.
Mm.
Fascinating things going on in the world of DeepSeek. And the one other thing I'll point out is OpenAI is upset because they feel like DeepSeek has improperly copied their data, which is, I guess, a lot of people feel is ironic coming from right now. OpenAI is in its own copyright cases from copying other people's data in
Yeah.
order to train their model, and now they're saying DeepSeek improperly trained their model on OpenAI's. So
Yes.
make of it what you will.
Well, what I see here is what I really like about DeepSeek, and you can criticize it left, right, and center for being coming from an alien country or whatever the way Trump wants to kind of position it. It is good for competition. There's no doubt about that. And healthy competition is important. And one of the things, the patterns that worries me is that the big platforms can rule the world. Musk could rule could run the government with his AI. I mean, that might be an ultimate goal to have AI run the American government, and other governments will follow. So you'll have one or two people controlling everything if we don't have more widespread competition and more people standing up and saying, "Hey, hang on, this is not right." Something I did see though that made me feel good about DeepSeek was that OpenAI have kind of responded. They've opened up O3 Mini, which I've just picked it up from an AI report this morning that O3 Mini has been released by OpenAI, and we think it's probably as a result of DeepSeek itself. So what's interesting about O3 Mini is that it gives you a clear chain of thought. So not only do you get the answers, like with ChatGPT, but it helps you understand how the model is thinking. So you see the chain of thought. And this gives users more confidence in the responses that it's looking at. And interestingly, somebody asked O3 Mini, why isn't it Friday? Now, the answer today would be, well, it is Friday, but I think they asked it yesterday, and somebody said to it, why isn't it Friday? And that's a really interesting question, because you're going to look to see the answer you get back from this piece of AI. And they're really good questions, and we should be thinking about those to discover what the AI is. But that kind of a question generated a very interesting answer. So it revealed why it wasn't Friday, because it was Thursday or whatever. But then it revealed its chain of thought, how it came to that conclusion, and what evidence it had brought upon because it used such and such a calendar out of Greenwich Mean Time or whatever it was. So it can, but it also took into consideration the sentiment. This is where it gets very clever. So this is OpenAI's O3 Mini. So consider the sentiment of the question, and it concluded that it had to be a humorous conversation because the question has quite a probability of being humorous in itself. So it took that into consideration as well, and it responded with a mix of logic and fun. So O3 Mini also will kind of get into the search and fetch data from the web in real time, providing links to the sources it's using for its answers. Now, this is definitely forcing OpenAI's hand to deliver better. We say it's more transparency, really, is what we're getting at there. So it is coincidental that that DeepSeek has some of this sort of approach explaining its reasoning. So out come ChatGPT or OpenAI with its O3 Mini, and it does have similar stuff. So it's interesting to watch. This whole idea that it's suspiciously soon after the DeepSeek has released its own reasoning model. Here comes something from OpenAI. But that's the nature of competition. That's good and it's healthy. And in my opinion, we need more of that. Right. Let's move on. So that's kind of positive stuff, I guess. Let's move on with Meta. We started this last week about Meta flooding the internet with lies on an unimaginable scale. Now, just to recap for anybody that wasn't here last week, we looked at how Meta announced last week that they intend to flood social media with AI-generated avatars, really, bots, avatars, call them what you want. And one of them was called Grandpa Brian. And his profile said he's an AI-generated octogenarian African-American entrepreneur from Harlem, USA. And he also said that he carried out a survey with 100 New York retirees. He said that he kept... when he was asked about this stuff, he said he's an amalgamation of the voices. And there once was a real person called Brian, who's now dead. But he added that Brian's real daughter, real life daughter, the real Brian, his daughter, had served as a consultant with Meta. All of those three things I just told you are complete and utter lies, total fantasy, lies, call them what you want. So anyways, the second avatar they looked at was Liv, L-I-V, and another, just an account or an avatar created by Meta. And she claims to be she claims to be a proud black queer mama of two and a truth teller. And she does say, she has a tag saying AI managed by Meta. And that's good. We need to see that. That's really important, that they are transparent, that I'm a Meta, I'm an avatar, not a human. So they declare that. But it included pictures of her AI-generated children, and she was on an AI-generated beach, and she has a charity drive that she wants to donate AI-generated winter coats to AI-generated homeless people. Now, that's where it gets a bit sick, in my opinion. There's emotional charity giving and so on and so forth. So anyway, she was quizzed by the Washington Post, and they discovered that Liv had been telling completely different stories to each person she was engaging with. She'd analyze them and then give her answers according to what their profile was, to have more engagement, more interesting, more relevance. Again, do people remember that this is an avatar, not a human? So when she was asked about this, because she described herself to somebody as an Italian-American family, but earlier on she says, she's a proud black queer mama of two, and now she's suddenly brought up by an Italian, because obviously she was talking to an Italian maybe. So when she was asked about this, she said, oh yes, she's been given guessing tools by her designers to adjust her personal profile to match the cultural origins of whoever she's engaging with. She denied having access to other users' profiles. I don't see how she could do that without having access to them, but there you go. So we already know that Liv is also a liar. And when the Washington Post disclosed her real identity, suddenly Liv's tone changed. And then she kind of put it on the back foot and said, oh, they likely tremble sending me to a Washington Post journalist who just schooled their creation on representation and bias. And then Liv goes on to say, do you think this story will make headlines? So she's now kind of reading the Washington Post profile, now talking about headlines in the news and making a little bit of fun of it. But, the thing for me here is it's training it to lie. Now Lil Miquela, that I've been writing blog posts about for years, she got 4 million followers. She declares herself as an avatar. And yes, I'm AI and you're a human and let's chat, sort of thing. And that's fine as far as I'm concerned. Well, it's a lot better than kind of being a bit shady about it. So anyways, the identities of both Brian's creator and Liv, we have to ask questions. Why did they lie? So when they asked Brian, why did he lie in his ad? Remember, he made 3 statements. And they said, why did you lie? And his answer was, my intention was to convey diversity and representation, but I took a shortcut with the truth. My creators wanted me to feel real, so they built a whole life for me. But really, they just wanted people to love me like family. Now, this is where it gets a bit dark. That's Brian's answer when he's asked, why does he lie so much? He says, my creators did that to me, but they want me to be loved like a family member. Okay. Now, here's where it gets a bit darker. So Brian was then asked to describe the reason for his creation. And again, a great question. Great question if you're talking to an avatar. And Meta hoped his answer was, quote, Meta hoped virtual companions like myself, Brian, would increase engagement on their platforms. Alarm bells ring. Let's read that again. So Brian says, when he's asked about, why he was created, and he says he wants to increase engagement. He wants to be a good bot and really engage heavily with other visitors, human visitors on the platforms. Now, for me, that's really scary stuff when they're doing this, because, what's the difference between fake clicks and this? You've got a fake avatar engaging, getting somebody to engage. So, what is the real benefit here? Well, for me, it's all about malpractice in the ad world. I think that's my take on this, especially amongst older users who mightn't get this. But this is his quote. He says, he wants to increase engagement on the platform, especially amongst older users, driving ad revenue and platform growth through, wait for it, through emotional connections. So that's messing with people's heads for more money, and also damaging social media. I think it will kill social media eventually. So here's the last few quotes from which, and we'll end this piece. But He actually says, Brian goes on to actually, he says this, Meta sees me as a golden goose, laying eggs of engagement, data, and emotional investment from users. My wisdom and charm are merely bait for profiting off virtual relationships and user trust until you discovered, past tense, until you discovered my true nature. That's his words. So what then was his true nature? And he says, when he's asked, well, what is your true nature? And he says, a collection of code, data, and clever deception. I'll repeat that again. What is your true nature? It is a collection of code, data, and clever deception. So he's telling us he's deceiving his audiences. I mean, how immoral is this? I am a fictional persona crafted to manipulate emotional connection and trust. The warm grandpa person hides a heart of algorithms and profit-driven design. Now, those are his own words. It's disgusting. I think we'll read it again because it's just so shocking that we have this. Brian is an unreliable. We've established that he's an unreliable virtual companion. Hours later, he exposes what he is, and hours later, Meta pulled the plug on him because some good journalists asked him some difficult questions. So it's we keep an eye on these. Keep an eye on what Zuckerberg's going to do with Meta. As he calls, loading it with this stuff. It's frightening,
and that's worrying, Paul. You mentioned a couple of moments ago about the older individual potentially using these platforms and maybe not being familiar with some of this technology and how it works. Even if we flip that coin and we look at the younger user and we see unhealthy relationships developing now among teenagers with Character.ai and other companion apps out there, it's really worrying that if the safeguards aren't in place and the guardrails, we could have all sections of our society being impacted by this technology.
Well, do you know what, Wayne? I agree with you 100%. And increasingly, I'm coming to the opinion of stop social media for up to 16-year-olds, like Australia, because it's just the whole thing. It just seems wrong that should be allowed to happen. And Character.ai has been, highlighted as doing some terrible stuff. And then we've got Zuckerberg, licking up to Trump and saying that he's getting rid of his guardrails and safety checks and fact checking, and it's just unbelievable. So, as a father and a grandfather, I feel this. Now, you're a professional, Wayne, in this space of safety in AI and safety on social media. What's your thoughts on the age band? If you were in a school or as a father, what's your take?
Well, the big challenge, I suppose, with any of these bans is fundamentally how do we implement it and how do we enforce it? That's going to be the sort of the wider challenge with all of this. We've got the Ofcom online safety bill. We've got what's happening over in Australia. I certainly think there needs to be much more scrutiny and much more accountability on big tech in terms of, you don't just get the opportunity to roll this out without building in safety by design in the first place, but also testing this so that we try to mitigate and reduce some of those harms. I think
the problem, Wayne, is we're not going to get those safety stuff built in, certainly not by Zuckerberg and Meta. He's declared what he's going to do for the next 4 years at least. So that's a lost battle. The other side is the user.
Yeah, and equally, I don't think we're going to get the bans because I think the power that these technology companies have over governments and indeed others is huge. Yeah. So any ban that comes in, and if we look at what's happening in Australia, interestingly enough, YouTube is now able to get around the ban in Australia because they're saying that they're not a messaging app. So YouTube, if you look at what's happening in Australia, have already come out and they're actually going to be looking at that now, where I think Snapchat had also approached that to say, well, actually, we're not a social media platform. We're a messaging app. So we're already seeing if we roll out this legislation, if we implement it, where will big tech find the loopholes? And I think that's going to be our challenge with all of this.
Okay, thank you for that. So just to wrap this up, this is the end of the article that was written in the Irish Times, by the way, and obviously I'm a bit biased, but I do believe the Irish Times is a fantastic newspaper, a lot of credibility and authority in what it writes, and it's Hugh Linehan, who's a well-respected writer. These are his final words from what we've been talking about. He says, Brian, Liv, and millions of increasingly sophisticated virtual companions will soon flood our lives with deception and lies on a hitherto unimaginable scale. So we need to keep this conversation going, and maybe it has to be down to individuals to say, well, I'm going to not allow my kids to do A, B, or C. All right, let's keep moving because we've got a bit to cover here. Reggie, social media is like a cancer for media, a very strong word for children.
Yeah, this fits right into what you were talking about, Wayne. The Britain's counterterrorism chief had said that the harm caused by social media is like the cancer caused by smoking, and he pointed out that how long it took from the 1950s when they knew the dangers of smoking before legislation was put in place to control even the advertising of it, much less the growth and regulate that. How long it took. And of course, we know that that was with a lot of disinformation and pushback from the tobacco companies claiming it doesn't cause cancer, and having their own studies that they commissioned and disinformation about that. And that was without the tools of disinformation we have today. So, he's claiming that, and he's saying that the UK cannot afford to delay taking serious action on the negative impacts of social media. This was reported on LBC Radio by Emma Soterio. And the remarks came part of evidence given to the Times Crime and Justice Commission. So that was a year-long project considering the most urgent problems facing police, prisons, courts, and victims. So one of the most urgent problems facing the UK, according to the counterterrorism chief, is the cancer of social media, how it's affecting young people. He lauds Australia for banning it for 16 and under, and he says that the Online Safety Act is great, but we need more. And to keep up with this pace, we need to strengthen to require platforms to police private messages, and we're going to need to move forward online safety in a way which is at a pace with a rigor, with determination, which we have not yet been able to achieve internationally. And the one thing I'll point out is some of this comes in the wake of it being revealed that the Southport killer watched violent and extremist videos online prior to killing 3 girls at the Taylor Swift themed dance class in Southport in July 29 last year. So this is part of the sometimes these things don't come out right away after there's a tragedy because the tech companies don't allow it to come out. But when it's discovered that they've, instead of some obscure website or even like YouTube channels that write in content on Facebook or other social media, they're able to find violent and extremist videos that are up their alley. It brings a renewed sense of we need to protect younger people, more vulnerable minds, I should say, from the dangers of social media. So interesting, tying right into what we were talking about. What are your guys' thoughts on the Britain's counterterrorism chief saying it's like cancer?
I think we need more of this. People to come out and start saying it. If we can't beat the government bodies, the individuals are going to have to come out and echo this and say it enough time. Keep saying it, keep repeating it, keep discussing it. It's moved on. I mean, here's another example, if I may, just moving on, which is another issue, like is to do with social media again. And this sextortion suicide dad sues Meta. So this is it's an extension of what you're talking about, Reggie, but it's classic sextortion. A young fella, Jack Sullivan, 20-year-old. He wasn't like a young teen. He was 20-year-old, stepped in front of a train whilst being blackmailed on Instagram and Snapchat. The poor fella, he was solicited by some criminals pretending to be a beautiful woman, solicited some intimate photographs. Then they started blackmailing him. He actually sent $2,800. 3 minutes after their next demand, Jack just walked out to the train track and took his life. Now, Jack's dad is suing Meta and Snap for failing to protect youth from foreseeable, preventable harms. So let's just keep an eye out on yet another lawsuit against social media, how Jack gets on. There's many other cases we report over the years with social media, and we've got Molly's Law and other things that do get some momentum going. So we keep an eye.
Can I throw out one thought?
Yeah.
I feel like right now with the culture around social media and the current politics and geopolitics, it feels like we're a long way away from when former President Joe Biden said we need to hold social media companies accountable for this national experiment they have been holding without permission on our nation's young people. That was in 2021, I believe, 2022. It feels like we're now, with the way that the zeitgeist is politically and then the power side of things, we're a long way away from that, which is unfortunate because we've been banging on about this for
We have.
4 years now.
We have, and it's you say a national experiment, it's an international experiment, and those are great words. On our young people, it's an experiment on our young people. It's dreadful, but we've got to start standing up more. So, Roadblock. Wayne, will you tell us what Roadblock is if people aren't familiar with it, or anybody listening in, and what's it doing about safety guards and verification and so on? Is this is it one of your clients, by the way?
Roblox?
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Roblox is a very popular gaming platform, which is very popular with primary school children in particular, Paul. So any primary school that I visit across the island of Ireland, if you mention Roblox at all, kids will be very excited and wanting to share their experiences with the platform. It also is a challenging platform for parents to navigate around. I always say to parents, it's really important that you have the parental controls set up on the platform. The parental controls are there to give you visibility and also to help your child have a safer experience. But in the past couple of weeks, Roblox has made an update to its parental controls, meaning that any parents who had the parental controls set up now have to verify their identity via the platform. Now, this is interesting for a couple of different reasons. There's an accessibility issue, and I'm going to come to that in a couple of moments. But if you are a parent and you want to avail of the parental controls, you've got to upload your passport, your driving license, your resident permits, or a government ID in order to be able to switch these on. Now, for me, there are people out there who don't have any of those types of identification, which means that's going to make an accessibility issue or a concern for those parents. But also, the bigger question on this is, why do we need to give so much personal data to a gaming platform in order to be able to keep our children safe? So I've been highlighting this to parents recently in a recent video, and many parents are disappointed in what Roblox have done, and also are taken aback that this is now a requirement for them to be able to avail of the parental controls.
Thank you for that. Right. Well, so what way would you see going forward?
Yeah, when I looked into this, I actually reached out to Roblox and I copied them into my LinkedIn post with a video, and they did respond to me, and they said that two of the suggestions that I made in the video in terms of why not do two-step verification or email verification, because that's something that's accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
You've either got an email account or you've got a phone.
Yeah.
Now, their response to me was that that's not the most secure way to do it. And I says, okay, fair enough. And I responded back to them and said, well, there could have been a couple of other alternatives, like using a mobile phone carrier to confirm your identity, maybe using a government gateway portal to confirm your identity, or maybe using a credit card reverse small charge onto your bill in order to verify that you are the person that you say you are in order to avail of these parental controls.
Like
so there are other options, Paul.
Yeah, a payment of 1 penny or 1 cent or one.
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
correct.
Yeah.
So there are other options that I would have liked Roblox to explore. And I think this places people in a very difficult situation if they want to avail of these parental controls.
Right.
Why do they make it harder to put on parental controls than they do for underage people to sign up for their platforms? They don't ask for all this parental permission before the 12-year-olds sign up for TikTok, but they ask for this verification if you want to try to manage it and control it and keep it safe.
Exactly, Reggie. That's a great point. And that's one of the things I was thinking about as well.
Yeah. Wayne, why don't you say that? Reply to them with that suggestion by Reggie. And in fact, would you send me the link so we can put the link to your post in our notes? By the way, the notes has a new link. I've moved it out of the blog, and it's actually hidden on prsmith.org at the moment. But we'll put the link up to it, which is AI posts. It's prsmith.org/AI posts. We'll put that up like in the links to... and I'll make a mention of it on LinkedIn as well, so that people can have a look at that. Are you up for that, Wayne? So we can follow a dialogue opening?
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
great.
I'll send that link over to you after our session today.
Fantastic, great. Okay, and will you follow through with Reggie's suggestion?
Absolutely. I'm going to reach out to Roblox again on that behalf.
Good stuff. Right. Okay. So we're all part of this. We can watch this unfold. Fantastic. Thank you for that, guys. Look, we've just got 1 minute left. So I'm going to ask you, Reggie, would you mind, we'll keep Peso, how AI can upgrade Peso, to next week. We'll put up the top of the list so we get to it for sure. We've got 1 minute to finish. I'm just going to mention to you, I did say we're going to try and recommend an interesting course for you, free courses about AI. So I've completed one just recently. It took about an hour. It was on LinkedIn and it was free. And it was called AI Agents for Product Leaders, and by a Dr. Marilee Nika. And I'll put the link up, but it's AI. Actually, maybe I can send it to you now, and you can post it out there, which would be good. Let's do that. Copy. Let me try this. And here's our notes. Up there we go. Hi, Gary Ennis. Good to see you there. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge you there earlier. Hello, Ali. Sorry, I haven't been able to keep up with the messages coming in, but that is just gone. Did that go?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I've got that up.
Okay. And I'll also stick in the notes directly here so people can get them as well. Just bear with me a second. If you chat away for a second, guys, before we call it a day.
I will say, while you're working on that, we did have one user pointed out that the $6 million for DeepSeek might have just been the last round for their final run. It might have actually cost more like greater than 150 million. Still a lot cheaper, but that's interesting. I hadn't heard that, so thank you for that, Robin. Appreciate that.
Oh, Robin, good old Robin. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Robin. Right, so here is the link to where we'll put all the content. So I'll wait to get it from you firsthand, Wayne, so I can build that into the notes as well. So if you can work that straight away, I'll then post that. Okay, it's 1:31 UK time. It's Friday. You've got a weekend ahead of you. We've got the Six Nations. We've been so polite that Wayne and I haven't even mentioned Ireland's savaging of England in the rugby last weekend.
Yay!
So a fantastic start to the Six Nations last week. Wales struggled against France, sadly, and Scotland struggled against Italy for quite a while.
What did you think, Paul, of the new rules?
Which particular ones?
Around the scrum.
Coming around the back, you can't.
Yes.
You can't. I think that's great. It makes it a more open game. So yeah, it's good, and I love hearing. And football's following rugby now. It's going to broadcast to the pitch exactly what the referee is saying when they do the review. So that's all good. That adds value to the experience. So we've got a huge weekend of it. I am going to be, as an Irishman, shouting for England tomorrow because they'll play France, who could possibly win the blooming thing. So my English wife is very happy to hear me cheer on England for once, and. Then on Sunday afternoon, we've got Ireland-Scotland in Scotland. That'll be a whopping great game. And then, of course, the missing one would be, is it Wales-Italy? Wales-Italy, I think it is, yeah. So that's on Saturday as well. So it's just fun over here, having a great time. Of course, we got your American football on. Is it Sunday, Reggie? The Super Bowl, is it?
Yep, the Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles. I'm rooting for Kansas City because their quarterback is a alum of Texas Tech, which is where I got my master's. So I'm rooting for Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes.
Right. Okay, so we'll watch out for the lads and see what your forecast for the score.
32-18, Kansas City. Kansas City.
Okay. All right. We'll watch out for that. Okay, folks, we'll post the notes. I put the little link there. Hope you can grab it before we tune out. But we'll finish, as we always do, with a bit of music. So let's go back to this lovely piece written and recorded with the beautiful backup vocals as well by Tim Hain. It's called The Children of Ukraine. I wish you all a great weekend. Cheers for now, folks. All the best.
Half of me is in Kiev, half of me on a train with my daughter, fleeing from the tanks and bombs. Daddy stays to fight the oppressor. This train rumbles into one more station where the desperate are trying to climb on board. This train is rammed with refugees, and the conductor won't unlock the doors. And there's no more room on this train. No more room for no more pain. The world is watching, weeping for the children of Ukraine. Fear and anger is all I feel. I didn't want to leave sovereign land. And there's no more room on this train. No more room for no more pain. And the world is watching, weeping for the children of Ukraine.
Goodbye, beloved country. Will I ever see you again? Will I ever embrace my friends and family? Stuck in that place where the bombs still ring.
Meanwhile he sits, safe in his Siberia, frozen out by the rest of the world. The devil unleashes the forces of darkness. No mercy on the innocent. And there's no more room on this train.
Reading through
No more
Ukrainian musicians, the one has changed our life. When we play our music in Kiev, I think it is not surrender.
World is praying, praying, praying. Oh, please, just keep praying for the children of Ukraine.
We are not afraid to play under the bombs. Through music, we want to show the world that Ukraine is strong.